Okay, there's a long passage regarding Sarah, and I want to get to that. I want to compare it with a short introduction regarding Abraham. So we're starting at 57, and then we'll move to 71. Abraham and Sarah have taken up residence in the land of Israel, having traveled there from Haran, and there's a famine. And Abraham decides that, at least temporarily, he's going to go down to Egypt. Verse 11 in the middle of the page. It occurred as he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, "See now, I have known that you are a woman of beautiful appearance. And it shall occur, when the Egyptians will see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' Then they will kill me, and you they will let live. Please say that you are my sister, that it may go well with me for your sake, and that I may live on account of you." On the surface, Abraham's saying, when I come down to Egypt, they're going to say we're husband and wife, I'm going to be in danger. And I'm asking you to do me a favor. Agree to the story that I'm going to tell, that we're brother and sister, so that they won't kill me. Please do me a favor and agree to this story. That's what he says. Now let me ask you a very simple question. Suppose it fails. Suppose, in fact, the Egyptians identify them as husband and wife, and they kill him. What's going to happen to her?
She becomes Pharaoh's wife.
Some Egyptian official is going to take her into his harem. That's the point of killing him. The point of killing him is to get her. Would that be good for her, do you think? Probably not, right? That's probably not what she wants in life, to become part of the harem of an Egyptian official. Why does Abraham say to her, "Please agree to this story and do me a favor. Help me out"? Why doesn't he say the truth? We're both in danger. If we're husband and wife, we're both going to suffer a terrible fate. Let's be smart and get ourselves out of this danger. Why does he paint it as if she's doing him a favor?
Well, because she wasn't going to be, if she went by herself, she wasn't going to be in danger. I mean,
It's protect
I'm sorry, I didn't get you. What did you say?
I mean, only if they knew they were husband and wife were they going to be in danger.
Right, but who's going to be in danger?
Avraham.
Who's going to be? Both of them, right? So he's now saying, okay, let's tell a story so there won't be any danger. Who's being saved from danger? Both of them, right? So he should have said to her, we're in danger, let's tell the story so we will be safe. Doesn't say that. What it says is, I'm in danger and I want you to tell the story to do me a favor. The answer is, if he says it the other way, if he says we're both in danger and this is what we should do to remain safe, at the very least, he's doing something for both of them. If he's doing something for both of them, then she owes him a debt of gratitude because she's benefiting from his yozma in Hebrew, his initiation, his way of dealing with the problem. This way, he says, do me a favor. That means she doesn't owe him anything. By painting it this way, he removes from her a debt of gratitude. Just one second. That's seems to me, an extremely sensitive point in interpersonal relations. I'll give you some examples of it in a minute. That's what's going on here. It's really a strategy that's good for both of them. Abraham paints it as if it were just a favor to him. Now, I want to show you on page 71. I'll come back to you, but I don't want to get the parallel. Take a look at page 71, and you'll see where Sarah returns the favor.
Sarah returns the favor.
She returns the favor to Abraham, doing the same favor for him that he did for her. Chapter 16. Sarai, Avram's wife, had borne him no children. Notice what it says. It doesn't say she was barren. It doesn't say she had no children. It says she had borne him no children. That's the way she saw her predicament. I have not given children to my husband. She had an Egyptian maidservant whose name was Hagar. Sarai said to Avram, see now, Hashem has restrained me from bearing. I am infertile. Consort now with my maidservant, should have relations with my maidservant. Why? To what end? What good will it do? Perhaps I will be built up through her. Perhaps I will be built up through her. What's really going on here? What's really going on is Sarah says, I haven't given children to Abraham. He deserves an heir, someone to inherit him, carry on what he wants to build in the world, and I haven't provided it for him. So I'm going to allow him to live with my maidservant. That's not a small thing for a woman to do, a wife to do. Let somebody else live with her husband. It's a gigantic favor she's doing for Avraham. She doesn't paint it that way. She doesn't paint it that way. She paints it, I have no children. I'm barren. I have no children. Please consort with my maidservant so that I will be built up. She paints it as if Abraham's doing her a favor. It's not true. She's doing a gigantic favor for him, but she doesn't paint it that way. She's removing the burden of gratitude from Abraham in exactly the same way that he removed the burden of gratitude from her when he was doing something that was for both of them, and certainly was for her as well, and he painted it only as doing a favor for him. I think you see here something exquisite in personal relations, interpersonal relations, husband and wife, or even outside of marriage. An exquisite idea, and it's something which shows the kind of relationship that Abraham and Sarah had with one another. You got a question?
Yeah, so back on page 57, Sarah's in danger. She said that she's in danger if Avraham dies because she'll have to get married to someone from Egypt.
Yeah, not just that if he dies. Remember, the danger is that they'll kill him to get her. That's why they'll kill. Not as if he falls into a pit and a snake bites him and he'll die. No, they're going to kill him to get her. The whole motivation is to get her.
But if the whole motivation is to get her and they go as brother and sister, they'll be like, oh, well, she's not married to anyone. Why won't they try and get her anyways?
They'll try. They'll try. They'll negotiate with him. They're not people who commit crimes casually. They're not barbarians. They have a whole civilization there. They have an empire. But when there's no way out, when the chips are down, so then they'll kill him to get her. But if there's another way, they'll do it in a civilized way. That's what he means when he says that it'll be good for me. Because they'll negotiate with me, they'll try to bribe me, we'll buy time. That was his plan. Okay? All right, now that was just the introduction to page 71. So this is what's going on in 71. Sarah says she has given Abraham no children. She invites him to have relations with her handmaid. Right? We are now at the end of verse 2, and look at Abraham's reaction. Avraham heeded the voice of Sarai. Now, as contrary to what I have translated for you before, in those words in the English are not consistent. Here it means he listened to her. It does not mean he obeyed her. It means he listened to her. Sometimes the translator uses heed for the Hebrew expression, which means obey. That's lishmoa bikol. Here it's lishmoa likol. Lishmoa likol means to listen to, take into account. But look what's going on. He has no heir. He has no, and polygamy is permissible. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't say to her, look, it's been a long time. We're getting old. I have no heir. Can I take another wife? He doesn't say a word. She suggested only painting it as if he's doing her a favor. And he agrees only because she said so. Only because he listened to her voice. I think that's absolutely exquisite. Okay, so Sarai, Avram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her maidservant, after 10 years of Avram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, and gave her to Avraham, her husband, to him as a wife. Now, when you will become sensitive to biblical style, you will realize any fact that's mentioned is mentioned for a purpose. There's no scenery. There's no, while in the time of day. Do I need to know that it's been 10 years they've been living in Canaan? What do I need that for? What does that contribute to the story? As you'll see, it contributes nothing to the story. But there is a law. A man has a responsibility of procreation. A woman does not have such a responsibility. If a man and a woman live together for a long time, they don't have any children, it's an open question. Where the fault lies. It might lie with the husband, it might lie with the wife, or with both. He can't simply go on as if nothing had happened. He's supposed to take measures to be able to fulfill that mitzvah. Either take another wife, or if necessary, divorce this wife and take another wife. He can't just be indifferent to that. The Torah is telling you here that this happened after 10 years of living in the land of Canaan, because the period of time after which a man has a responsibility to do something is 10 years after living in Israel. They were together for decades before they came to Israel. Here it says it's 10 years after living together, living in Israel. And that halacha applies today. This person who lives in New York and doesn't have children for 30 years, there's no responsibility. Because it might be, you're hearing this at Rosh Hashanah, don't forget, it might be that the transgression of living outside the land of Israel is what's costing you not having children. So it's no test. Come here and live here for 10 years. If after living here for 10 years you have no children, then the husband has a responsibility to do something. To rectify the situation. It depends upon the rest of the laws, which I'm not going into now. And that's what the verse is doing here. It's telling you that that's how they operated and formulates that halacha. Okay. 4, he consorted with Hagar and she conceived. When she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was lowered in her esteem. A lot of pronouns there. When Hagar saw that she, Hagar, had conceived, her mistress, who's her mistress? Sarah. Became lowered in Hagar's esteem. She saw that she got pregnant. She now is treating Sarah with disrespect, disregard. Why? Wasn't that the purpose of the whole exercise? The purpose of the whole exercise is she should live with Abraham so that maybe she'll become pregnant and give birth to a child. Why would Sarah go down in Hagar's evaluation? And Sarai said to Avraham, the outrage against me is due to you. It's your fault. It was I who gave my maidservant into your bosom, and now she sees that she is conceived. I become lowered in her esteem. Let Hashem judge between me and you. It's your fault that she treats me now with contempt. You have any clue what's going on here? This isn't so much in the text as it is just think yourself into their situation, and there's a pretty obvious explanation of what's going on here. Who are Avraham and Sarah? Who are they? They're two people who have a certain philosophy. They have a certain understanding of the world. They worship God. And they have converted a large community, thousands of people. Abraham converted the men. Sarah converted the women. They have a large community of followers. What's Hagar's attitude towards Sarah now?
Better than
If you're so holy, if you're so close to the Creator, then He should have given you children. If I didn't get pregnant, we wouldn't know whose fault it is. Maybe it's Abraham's fault. Maybe he's infertile. But I got pregnant means he's fertile and you aren't. Who are you to set yourself up and pretend that you're going to teach everybody how to live? You're going to teach them the ultimate reality, come close to the Creator of the world? You're a phony. You're a phony. The very fact that I became pregnant means you're a phony. That's why she treats her with contempt. Now, you tell me, is she being logical when she takes this attitude? Why not? What's wrong with this logic? Sarah herself put her in that position. Ribono shel olam. Is Sarah idiotic? Is she suicidal? She put her in that position so she'll become pregnant. That was the whole point of it. She put her in that condition to reveal to the world that she's a failure. There's got to be something wrong with that logic. What's wrong with the logic? That our understanding of the Creator of the universe is not sugar daddy in the sky. If you offer him some sacrifices, he gives you money and pleasure and long life and fertility and all the rest. God has his plans. And as a matter of fact, those of you who've been around for a while know that all the matriarchs were barren. Only Leah had a special dispensation because Jacob disfavored her, that her womb was opened. All of them were barren. And the oral tradition says all the men were barren also. The norm in our ancestry was to be barren. So that when children are born, they're born only miraculously. Hagar hasn't got a clue about this, and her logic is twisted, and she comes out with this attitude. Okay, why is Sarah angry at Abraham? Because she says to him, you should have told her this. You should have explained this to her. When you started living with her, you should have said, listen, the purpose of this is that you should get pregnant. And Sarah's the one who wants you to get pregnant. And if you get pregnant, it means nothing about Sarah's greatness and her holiness and all the rest. You should have prepared her for this, so she shouldn't have drawn this conclusion. That's Sarah's complaint against Avraham. Okay, are we together? Fine. Avraham said to Sarai, behold, your maidservant is in your hand. Do to her as you see fit. The English is okay. The literal Hebrew is, do to her as is good in your eyes. Now I'm going to go out on a limb here. I checked the commentators, searching for someone who will say what I see here. I couldn't find anybody. So what I say could be dead wrong. But I think there's a little bit of a hint here. Do to her what is good in your eyes. Think about it. Evaluate it. Make sure you can say afterwards that it's good and you can justify it. I think that's what he's hinting to her. I could be dead wrong. That's what I hear in those words. Sarai dealt harshly with her, so she fled from her. Hagar fled. Ran out of the house and fled. Now comes a fascinating interaction. An angel of Hashem found her. We saw agent of Hashem is a better translation. Found her by the spring, the water of the desert, at the spring of the road to Shur. And he said, Hagar, maidservant of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going? What do you hear in those words of the angel?
Well, he referred to her as the maidservant of Sarah.
You are the maidservant of Sarah. That's what you are. You can't escape that. You can run as far as you like. That's your identity. You're stuck. Where are you coming from and where are you going? Watch how she answers. And she said, I'm running away from Sarai, my mistress. Does she know the truth? She knows the truth. She identifies herself that Sarah is her mistress. She knows that. She knows that. She's in great pain. She can't stand it. She fled from the house, but she knows what her identity is. So she's in terrible conflict. She ran, but now we'll see why she's in such terrible pain. An angel of Hashem said to her, return to your mistress and submit yourself to her domination. Again, your mistress. An angel of Hashem said to her, I will greatly increase your offspring, and they will not be counted for abundance. An angel of Hashem said to her, behold, you will conceive, give birth to a son. You'll call him Yishmael, but Hashem has heard your prayer, etc., etc. There's a lot to say here. But just tell me, look at 11. There's something in 11 which, given the scenario that we've described up until now, is a little peculiar.
Behold, you will conceive. She's already pregnant.
Behold, you will conceive? She's already pregnant. That's how this mess started. She got pregnant. She treated Sarah with contempt. Sarah made it bitter for her, and she ran out of the house. What do you mean, behold, you will conceive? Can you think of a plausible explanation?
That's Hashem saying that I'm in control.
Sorry, say again?
That's Hashem saying I'm in control, so it's my decision that Sarah's not pregnant. It's my decision that you're pregnant, and I can stop it or start it anytime I want.
Okay, I think that the sentiment is certainly correct. The words are, you will conceive. You will conceive.
She's already conceived.
She's already conceived. She's pregnant. That's why we got into this problem. How can you get it? How could you explain it?
Maybe she's not.
What was it? Maybe Sarah's oppressing her. She had a miscarriage. Maybe she lost the baby. Maybe that's why she's running, because she's in despair. She was carrying Abraham's child, that was supposed to be this great future, and Sarah destroyed it. She says, no hope for me. Now watch what happens with these speeches. 3 different angels, or maybe 4, speak to her. Each one says a speech, and there's no answer. There are 3 different speeches with no answer, yeah.
The dealing with her harshly, you think that's like she forced Hagar to have an abortion? Or
I don't know if she did it premeditatedly or she just dealt with her so severely that was the result. I have no way to infer whether Sarah planned that or not. But that was the result, and then Hagar says, well, it's over. I can't. So, what does the angel say in 9? Angel said, return to your mistress and submit yourself to domination. Hagar's response is, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. I ran in desperation and despair. I cannot do that. 10, an angel of Hashem said to her, I will greatly increase your offspring, and they will be counted for abundance. You'll be the mother of a great nation. Hagar says, no. Look what happened. I was pregnant with Abraham's child, and Sarah caused a miscarriage. It'll happen again. I have no hope. I have no future. Angel of Hashem said to her, behold, you will conceive. I know what your situation is. I know what your condition is. And you'll give birth to a son, and you should call his name Yishmael, for Hashem has heard your prayer. At this point, she can take it. That kind of commitment, you will conceive, and you'll give birth, and it will be a boy. And you should give him a name. That's definite, that's fixed, that's absolute. And she can accept it, and she's ready to go back.
Didn't you say that she conceived again?
Yes, of course. Then now, after this, she gives birth to Ishmael.
Meaning a different son.
Well, the first one was a miscarriage. That means there's no son there. He just dies, right? So there's only one son in the end. That's Ishmael, who's coming up now, a year from now. But she lost that first child.
How was it Sarah's fault?
How was it Sarah's fault? The miscarriage took place because of the fact that Sarah dealt with her harshly. Whether she put extra work on her or it says the second half of verse 6, Sarah dealt harshly with her, so she fled from her. Not bringing in anything from outside. Yeah.
Do we know anything about the first baby? Was it Torah mentioned?
I'm not aware of anything, but there are many, many sources, especially midrashic sources, with the truth. I'm not familiar, so they could very well be. I have no idea. So that is what happens with respect to Ishmael, and that's how he's born. Now it's very interesting. Turn to the next page, 73, verse 15. I'm skipping something which isn't relevant to the scenario that I'm building. Hagar bore Avram a son, and Avram called the name of his son that Hagar bore him Ishmael. How do you think Hagar felt when she heard that? The angel told her, that's all. Told her, indeed. She says, you shall call his name Ishmael. Avram gives the same name that the angel said to her. I mean, I think she, as they say in Hebrew, Yatzam and Kelim. She must have been ecstatic. The words of the angel come true right in front of her. She trusted the prediction. She went back, and that's what happened. Okay, we're together? Now, some of you notice I have not been consistent with this. The text calls the two of them here, and in much of the text, Avram and Sarai. We know them as Avraham and Sarah. That shift takes place in the next passage, and that's what I want to show you. There's a lot that's built into that shift. Page 73. This is a long prophecy that Abraham has for various purposes. I want to start with just 2 verses, 5 and 15, where the names are described. I'll read them to you, and then I'll ask you a question. Verse 5, God is talking to, at that time, Avram, and he says to him, your name shall no longer be called Avram, your name shall be Avraham. For I have made you the father of multitudes of nations. Your name shall no longer be called Avram, your name shall be Avraham. Now look at the next page. Verse 15. God said to Avraham, as for Sarai, your wife, do not call her name Sarai, for Sarah is her name. I would like you to compare and contrast for me what happens to the two names. What happens to his name in 5? What happens to her name in 15? What's going on? Is it the same? Is it different? If it's different, how is it different?
There's an H, it's like one of God's names that are added.
Okay, yes, that's true. In terms of letters, and we're going to make a big deal out of that. Sarai ends with a yud, and then it's Sarah with a hey, and Avram gets an extra hey to his name. We're going to talk about that, and we'll talk about that in detail. Okay, what else? What does the verse tell you is going on with each name?
In verse 5, he's kind of changing Avram's name to Avraham.
Yes.
And in 15, he's not really changing anything. God is saying that her name isn't Sarai, it is Sarah.
Right. That's it. In verse 5, the name is being changed. In verse 15, the name is being revealed, not changed. Let's look again. In verse 5, it says, your name shall no longer be called Avram. It has been up until now. That's what your name was. Your name shall be Avraham. It was Avram. From now on, it's going to be Avraham. In 15, it says, as for Sarai, your wife, do not call her name Sarai. I'm not telling you anything about her. I'm telling you, don't call her Sarai. For Sarah is her name. You've been calling her Sarai? Well, that's, an illusion. It's not quite right. Because her name is Sarah. There's a gigantic difference there. Now, in the intervening text, God says to Abraham, I'm making a covenant with you. Covenant of circumcision. He's 99 years old. And with that covenant, you will inherit the land of Israel and to become the father of a great nation and all the rest. So Abraham is undergoing a fundamental change in identity. And this is a textual feature that you find in literature all over the world, that a person's name expresses his identity, and when he undergoes a change of identity, very often there's a change of name. It's a common theme because it's logical. So Abraham, who's in the context getting a change of identity, he gets a change of name. The implication is that Sarah's identity isn't changing, and that's why her name isn't changing. Her name is just being revealed. Now let's see how it works. Sarai is Sin Resh Yud. Subtract the Yud. She gets a Hey in place of the Yud, and he gets an extra Hey. The letters in Hebrew have numerical values. You may have heard of that. Sometimes it's called gematria. The value of the Yud is 10. The value of the Hey is 5. Last time I checked, twice 5 is 10. So the Yud is really 2 Heys. So her Yud fissures into 2 Heys. She keeps 1, and 1 is transferred to Avraham. That's what's going on here. That's what's going on. It's if to say that by calling her Sarai, she has an extra Hey, his, which is not yet appropriate for him to get, and now it's being transferred to him. Now, what is a Hey? Well, if you take the book on page 11, you'll get a picture of what a Hey is. What I'm telling you now is a commentary of the Kli Yakar. Anybody might know. Verse 4, these are the products of heaven and earth when they were created. Now look in the Hebrew, 6 lines down. Eila soldos, these are the products. Hashemayim va'aretz, the heavens and the earth. He bar You notice the Hey is smaller than the other letters. That's not a mistake. In the Torah scroll, some letters are smaller than usual and some letters are larger than usual. And that's part of the tradition. And if you don't have it the right size, the Torah scroll is not correct. That means that letter plays a special role. There are many ways to fill out that special role. The simplest, the most direct is just change the vowels. You know that in the Torah scroll there are no vowels. Another way to read these letters in order is Behei Bra'am. With a hey, he created them. A hey is the power of creation. A hey is a power of creation. One second. So, says the Kli Yakar, on page 73:5, what we have is Sarah with her own hay carrying an extra hay. That's why she's being called Sarai. At this point in time, the extra hay is transferred to Avraham. What happens now? Circumcision takes place now. The change in his name takes place now. And then she becomes pregnant and gives birth to Isaac. The prelude of conceiving and birthing Isaac is that Abraham gets the hay that he didn't have. That power of creativity. She had it, and he didn't have it. She had extra and had to be transferred from her to him. We got it so far? Now, somebody who knows something about the sequence of biblical events will find this a little difficult to deal with. He's 99 and she's 89. At this point, when this text is speaking, what is their reproductive history?
Barren. They haven't had children.
No, not said correctly. We moved up from 57. Abraham has a child. Ishmael's already born. He's already 12 years old. She has no children. Now you get this paradoxical picture. She has no children and she has two hays, both powers of creation. He has a child and has no hay. How's that? Answer. He's fertile, all right? He can give birth to Ishmael, who's going to be excluded, who's not going to be part of his future, his continuation. He doesn't have the power to cause the birth of Yitzchak, of Isaac. She has double that. So the hay is transferred from her to him to bring him into her club, so to speak, where they both have the power to conceive and give birth to the second patriarch. That's what's going on. Okay? Just you see, it's a little bit beneath the text. Yeah.
So you know how you said like maybe she miscarried that first, Hagar miscarried the first child. So how did she get pregnant again? By who?
She went back. The angel said, go back to and submit yourself to your mistress. And she did. She went back to Abraham's house. And they continued the experiment. The whole point of the experiment was that she should get pregnant and give birth to a child, that Sarah should be built up.
For sure Abraham's child, and she didn't like go with someone else.
No. She ran from the house. She was in the middle of, she was all alone on the way to Shur by a well. And the angels came and spoke to her and she went back. Not only that, you have to understand, I'm telling you what's in the Midrash now, but Hagar was a very special person. Hagar was an Egyptian princess. She was an Egyptian princess. When Abraham and Sarah came down to Egypt, and they said they were brother and sister, and Sarah was taken to the palace, and then there was a plague on the palace, and Pharaoh was deathly afraid, and he sent Abraham out with great riches. One of the Egyptian princesses said, I'd rather be a slave in Abraham's household than be an Egyptian princess. That's why she attached herself to Abraham's household. That's how she got there. And by the way, she made a pretty good deal, because we are sitting 3,700 years later, and we're still talking about her, we're still discussing everything she did, and still praising her, whereas all the other Egyptian princesses of that time are lost to history. Nobody knows who they were, what they did, what they stood for, they go on. Pretty good deal. Then, when the portion we saw the other day, that Avraham throws him out of the house because Ishmael has become corrupt, later Sarah dies. When Sarah dies, Abraham remarries. Now the Torah calls the name of the woman he remarries Keturah. The oral tradition says that Keturah was Hagar. A number of people in the text have multiple names, so the fact that it's a different name doesn't mean anything. And Midrash says She said, I've been with Avraham. There's nobody else in the world for me. Nothing else can count. And she lived alone. Avraham, when Sarah died, took her back. So she's an extraordinary figure. Extraordinarily positive figure. We're not talking about a woman who, because she ran away in despair, is going to look for somebody and hook up. Okay? All right, fine. Now, I'm going to start a new passage. This has a long, interesting. 79. Hashem appeared to him in the plains of Mamre while he was sitting at the entrance of the tent in the heat of the day. And as the story will go on, you'll see that we're talking about Abraham here. Hashem appeared to Abraham. Plains of Mamre. The old tradition says something here, and it took me a very long time to see that it's actually in the words of the text. This comes right after describing Abraham's circumcision. The old tradition says this was the third day after the circumcision, when the pain and the weakness is at its peak. And even so, he was sitting at the entrance of the tent, as you'll see, just looking for visitors, travelers whom he can serve, give hospitality to. I used to think, well, the oral tradition is commenting on the fact that this follows immediately on that previous passage. So it's just talking about the fact that they're connected. Of course, it's much more than that. The verse here starts, Hashem appeared to him. Suppose you start reading here. What are you going to say? Him who? Who is it? Well, of course, you turn back. You turn back to find out who the him is. And of course, it's Abraham who circumcised himself. The text here forces you to look back. So it's a natural continuation of the previous story. Not a brand new beginning. Otherwise, this new verse could be a year later or 10 years later. No, but not if you start with a pronoun that forces you to look back, it's a continuation. Sitting at the entrance of the tent in the heat of the day. I don't know if you still do it. The yeshiva does. They used to take the boys to a Bedouin tent and go camel riding with them and sleep overnight and so forth and so on. The tents are made. There's a large tented area. In the center, there's like a cone that goes up. And at the center, at the top, there's a hole. That creates a draft. It draws air in because hot air rises. It draws air in from the outside, and it goes up through the center. The coolest place in the tent is close to the center. It's out of the sun rays, right? Abraham's sitting at the entrance of the tent. He's not doing that. He's looking for travelers because all he wants to do is service travelers. Here you have a picture of the extent to which Abraham was committed. Serving travelers was like a fundamental commitment of his. Now, I want to do one more thing with you today. I want to read through the page quickly, the whole page, and I want you to see one consistent current throughout the entire page. He lifted his eyes and saw, and behold, 3 men were standing over him, opposite him, we should say. He perceived, so he ran toward them from the entrance of the tent, bowed toward the ground, and he said, my Lord, we'll talk about the translation tomorrow, if I find favor in your eyes, please not pass away from your servant. Let some water be brought, wash your feet, recline beneath the tree. I will fetch a chunk of bread, not morsels, not right in English, that you may sustain yourselves, then go on, inasmuch as you have passed your servant's way. They said, do so just as you have said. So Abraham hastened to the tent to Sarah and said, hurry 3 saws of meal, fine flour, knead and make cakes. And Abraham ran to the cattle, took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to the youth who hurried to prepare it, took the cream and the milk, and calf which he had prepared, placed these before them, he stood over them beneath the tree, and they ate. No, they don't have to turn the page. There's a lot of action on this page. A lot of action on this page. There's one adverb that goes with all the actions. What adverb is that? How are all the actions done?
Quickly.
Fast, quickly. Every one of them is done fast. 5. 6. Well, first of all, in the middle of 2, he perceived, so he ran toward them. 6, he hastened to the tent, said to Sarah, hurry. Then he ran to the cattle, took a calf, and gave it to the youth who hurried to prepare it. Everybody's racing over here. Sure, you have an opportunity to do a mitzvah. You don't take a chance that the opportunity will be lost, and you're servicing people who are in need, so you do it as quickly as possible. Abraham knows this, Sarah knows this, the servant knows this. That's the household. That's the policy of the entire household. Now, what does Abraham promise to do in 5? Promises to give them
Bread.
a chunk of bread. As I said, morsel. I don't know, I can't defend it. Morsel to me, my English means a few crumbs. No, he's not giving 3 grown adults a few crumbs. But chunk means maybe not a whole loaf, maybe just leftovers or something, just some bread, right? Pas lechem, some bread, right? What does he provide for them?
Cake.
Milk and cream and a freshly slaughtered calf.
And lack of guilt.
Sorry, say again?
Lack of guilt also. When he first says to them, instead of saying, "Oh, let me prepare you a meal," he says, "Let me just give you some bread." So, "Oh yeah, okay, we'll wait for some bread," and then he gives them a whole entire meal.
And from this we learn something about how a person should conduct himself. Promise little and produce more than you promise. Of course, if you have to promise more to get the agreement, but if you can, promise little and produce more than you promise. Always give extra. In American culture, there used to be what was called the baker's dozen. I don't know why it's baker. What's 13 eggs? I have 13 units because that's the way you conduct yourself. Tomorrow in Yetzer Hashem, we'll talk about the problem that probably leaps to mind at the end of the paragraph, which is,
He's just circumcised.
What is he serving them? Milk and meat. Golly, Abraham. I thought I could count on you. I thought you were better than that. Milk and meat together? My goodness gracious, how could he do that? There are at least 5 answers to that question. It's not all that good a question. We'll talk about it tomorrow.